He had a good life, a beautiful wife, a cute-as-you-like 2-year-old son, and a newborn baby daughter. He'd also just made detective. Then one day, Damian Leeding went to work and never came home. Damian was shot trying to stop an armed hold-up at a Gold Coast hotel. He died a few days later, surrounded by the family he loved so dearly. It's a risk every police officer takes when they're on the job, a risk they take willingly and with great courage and pride. But when you spend a little time with those left behind, it just breaks your heart.
Oh, there's a bubble!
Little Hudson Leeding is a carbon copy of his father, Damian. Of course, at 2 years of age, life is pure joy.
Bubbles coming out of your mouth.
Far too young to comprehend the finality of his father's funeral or the heart-wrenching impression he left playing innocently alongside the coffin. But his mum, Sonia, knows the harsh reality. Damian was killed by the very people he'd sworn to fight.
They're the ones that've got to live with this. You know, I can live with, well, I'm still getting used to the idea that Damian's not coming home. But they're the ones that I've got to live with destroying my family, destroying my shining light.
We are here as the result of an evil act.
35-year-old Damian Leeding was one of a special breed, a frontline officer who saw policing as a calling, taking the fight to the Crims on their turf. And there was something about his slaying 3 weeks ago at a Gold Coast pub that affected not just his colleagues, friends and family, but everyone.
We only spoke for a couple of minutes. Had I known this would be the last time I'd ever speak to Damo, I would have had so much more to say. I would have told him to be safe, to look after himself, and to not be so brave.
You just don't realise how many people it's touched.
Did you feel like they were lifting you up?
Yeah, and I still do, and I think if I'd have worked for any other company or business or whatever, we'd be on our own trying to deal with this. We're not. We're very, very fortunate that we're not.
I guess in a strange way, in the space of a week, you've seen the worst of being a cop and the best of it.
Yep, definitely. We certainly have. Yeah.
Sonia isn't just a widow, she's also a police officer. She met Damian 8 years ago when they were both rookie cops. Straight away, Damian was smitten, but initially, Sonia wasn't so sure.
It was all a bit of a surprise to you.
Yeah, and my mum came up for a holiday for a weekend and she kept going, oh, he's really nice and he's got a cute bum, and I'm like, he's a ranger. You're not going to go out with a ranger?
What's wrong with a ranger?
Nothing now. But at the time I was just like, no way, red hair and freckles, no way. So not my type, Yeah, it must have been someone's plan.
What was he like to be around?
Lots of fun. We didn't have to say a lot to each other, we just knew. He was always very thoughtful, especially with the kids. And as a dad, he adored our kids. It was the making of him.
And parenthood only strengthened Damian's resolve to keep his community safe. Typically, he was first to an armed hold-up at the Pacific Pines Tavern on Sunday night, the 29th of May.
Shots fired. Officer down.
And it was Damian who challenged the bandits as they fled through the car park.
Copy that, one officer down.
When he was shot in the head.
We need an ambulance, code 1.
Just before 1 a.m. came the knock on the door that every officer's family dreads.
As soon as I walked out and shone the torch through the glass next to the door, I saw one of his inspectors in uniform. And it's probably your worst nightmare, especially knowing your partner's doing the job that we do, and it's always a risk. I never thought it would be him. For 2 seconds I thought, stuff this, I'm not opening the door. I know what they're here for.
Damian's heart had stopped at the scene. He had to be resuscitated before being rushed to the Gold Coast Hospital for emergency neurosurgery.
We had a meeting with one of the doctors, with Damian's family, and they said, he's been shot in the head, he's in surgery. And I just knew then, I knew then it wasn't going to end well. I knew it was going to end, but not well.
Damian never regained consciousness, and the decision was made to take him off life support. The community reaction has been extraordinary. At Coomera Police Station, flowers flooded in, from complete strangers, bikies, even ex-cons. For the mates he worked with here, like the boss Mark Proctor, one of the really good guys is gone.
It's something I hope I never have to go through again. It's losing not only a colleague and a staff member, but losing such a good mate. He's worked with me and most of the people here for 4 to 5 years. He's the sort of bloke that you become a mate with real quick. He's was a champion bloke. One of the team.
It's just so sad, you know?
Yeah, it is. And that's probably the best way. It's just sad. It's not fair, is it?
Damian knew there was an armed hold-up in progress at the Pacific Pines Tavern. He knew it was a potentially very dangerous situation, but as he always told his mates, if he could take down the crooks, he would. Well, they got him first. Understandably, there has been a massive outpouring of grief for Damian and his family. But the reality is, what happened to Damian could happen to any police officer, anytime, anywhere. Nearly 10,000 Australian police officers are assaulted in the line of duty each year. And when the worst happens, a tragedy like Damian's, every officer feels the pain.
I cried. I sat here on my own and cried. And, it still makes me teary thinking about it now.
Yet it so easily could have been you.
Yep, it could have been. That's right. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, it was close. Very close.
As a frontline officer in Sydney, Sergeant Steve DiLorenzo has faced death twice. In 2009, with an armed robbery underway, Steve entered the Lakes Hotel in Rosebery. Security footage captured the thief, Tevi Kaloa-Matangi, holding 3 hostages at gunpoint as Steve approached, unseen, on the other side of the bar.
I saw that there were at least 3 other people in there begging for their lives. There's a lot of screaming going on, and I quickly retreated back, knew that Kaloa-Matangi hadn't seen me, and just briefed the other police officers. I said, we've got the element of surprise, and I said, I'll sneak up and I'll taser him.
Steve DiLorenzo crept up and fired, hitting Kaloa-Matangi in the chest. But the high-voltage barb bounced off the zipper on his jacket.
I didn't realise that. I thought it brought him down because he stepped back inside a counting room. And what I did then is I stepped into the counting room to see whether it had an effect on him and walked towards him, and he got into a combat stance and took 2 shots at me, point blank. One of them I think narrowly missed my heart, and the other one I believe missed me by only millimetres to the head area.
But this battle had only just started. Steve DiLorenzo believed in never taking a backward step. He put on a flak jacket, armed himself with a Glock pistol, and went back in to confront the gunman.
Who goes back in?
The New South Wales Police go back in. We don't back off when someone's holding a gun to a person's head and threatening to execute them, and also threatening to kill other hostages, we don't back off. And I think that's a message that these gunmen have got to understand. The police will not back off. We will never back off. We will protect life and property, even at the expense of our own lives.
In the ensuing firefight, Steve shot the gunman, Kaloa Matangi, 3 times, and he eventually surrendered. But Steve didn't escape unscathed. He'd been shot in the shoulder.
I got hit with a 40 calibre full metal jacket round that went straight through me. It went in the front of my shoulder and exited the rear of my shoulder. It goes through you, I think, at about 3,500 feet a second, and it's a hot round.
Today, the bullet wound in his right shoulder is still plainly evident. But the scars of 16 years on the front line for this swimming coach turned police officer are not only external.
Nobody thinks when they're leaving the academy that they're going to walk through the gates of hell more than once or twice, but you do, and it can happen to anyone at any time, no doubt about it. You've got to be ready.
Steve first entered those gates of hell in February 2000 during a domestic dispute in Bondi. A 24-year-old man attacked and beat him to the ground, trying to drown him in this pond. Steve's only escape was lethal force.
When he was over the top of me, he was just smashing me like that, just pounding me. Only he was kneeling, of course, so he's in this position like this, and just smashing me. So I was unable to get up. When you've got a 100-kilo guy on top of you and you're in that sunken trench full of water, you can't get up. So there was no opportunity for me to get up at all. I was on my own. Yeah.
You think the worst at this stage?
Oh, well, not only did I think the worst, I knew it was the worst. I knew he was going to kill me, or I had to discharge a firearm to get him off me. That was it.
Despite a coronial finding of justifiable homicide, Steve still has nightmares about the shooting. Swimming is one of his main therapies to deal with post-traumatic stress. He's now retired from the force, but wants the public to appreciate just what an asset our frontline police are.
But those blokes and women that elect to stay and serve on the front line are a particular type of breed. Damian Leeding was one of them. I never met Damian Leeding, and I've never met his family, but I can understand the type of bloke he was, and I understand why he got shot straight through the face. I understand why. I feel connected to him. I've never met him, but I know why he did it, because he wanted to serve the community in Queensland and he wanted to do the right thing. You know, I take my hat off to the guy.
And perhaps, even in death, Damian has continued to serve his community. From around Australia to his own suburban street has come a renewed appreciation for our police. Here, neighbours have tied blue ribbons as a mark of respect, not just for Damian, but for Sonia too. Because remarkably, in spite of everything, she plans to return to duty.
The job we do is unique, and this last week I've just seen everybody stand up and be counted and still get up and go to work and put their firearms on and know that they're going to perhaps encounter something similar. But at the end of the day, we are, and I've always maintained this, it is a job. Everybody has their own job. We were both very proud to be part of the job, I guess we can call it. And even now, everyone's there like, oh, you don't have to come back. You can do whatever you want. Oh, but I can't. This is what I do. It's who I am. And it's who all of us are.
Coming up.
You were a force of nature, and we'll never forget your cheeky smile.
The police commissioner's teenage son mowed down in a hit and run.
My baby and you always will be.
But from despair comes inspiration and compassion.
This is not a tough love experience. This is genuinely supporting these kids to find their own way.
That's next on 60 Minutes.